Thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to try not to move too much. So last month we talked about understanding the bowl gouge, and we turned the outside of a bowl. I was surprised to actually spend over an hour talking about just the outside of a bowl. I'm hoping we'll go faster for the inside. However, I picked the pieces of wood from SWAT, and they turned out to be dry. So hopefully it's going to go well. I don't like to turn dry wood. They're dusty and they're a little bit harder and they don't cut as smoothly, but we'll go with it. When turning the inside, you always have to look at how thin you want to go. And that dictates how you want to cut it. Because sometimes if you're going to go like a thick quarter inch or more salad bowl, you don't care as much about taking it in stages. However, if you want to turn it very thin, 1/8 of an inch or less, usually you want to do it in stages. You want to go in like an inch, then go another inch, and so forth. That way you can blend the curve and doesn't start wobbling on you. I don't turn many bowls, so I'm just going to explain the process and how I do it, and hopefully it's going to go well. I like to do hollow forms, and sometimes I'll do natural edge because it's more of a character for me. It's just a regular bowl for me personally. I always look at it, a bowl is a bowl is a bowl, and I get bored, so I kind of want to move on. So I like to hollow more so I usually concentrate on the outside. I brought a couple of pieces. I don't want to bring back the older pieces from last time. Those who are interested, first part is on YouTube. You can watch it again. I'm going to go ahead and show the couple of pieces I brought with me. And again, I didn't bring all of them. I have few balls. They're in a closet somewhere in the house. That's where my wife keeps all my turnings. And by the way, I love you. This is I like to call it my soup bowl. I wanted to turn something, and again, I find bowls a little bit boring. So I figured why not keep the natural edge in the bowl as I turn it. Obviously, this is the side of the tree. And it's done with the bowl gouge. That's why I kind of picked those pieces. It's a little bit thicker. So the decision to make it thicker wasn't because, I just want a thick piece of wood. When I looked at the side, if I go thin, I'm going to lose a lot of bark. And that's the point of turning this bowl. So thickness can be about what you're trying to accomplish. Salad bowl, probably going to be a little bit thicker for usability and stability. Artistic piece is just up to you how you want to design it. And usually the character dictates how you want to make it. Pass this one. Now, this was a crotch piece of wood. I like this piece. In the winter, we display ornaments and stuff in it. And in the summer, we just put all the keys and remote controls and everything in it. So you'll see some sparkling items in it, like glitter. Again, it's a crotch piece of wood. I like this piece. And the idea behind it is that the thickness. And again, if I go a little bit thinner, I'm going to lose some of the bark. I can definitely go thinner with this. But as I was turning it, and I got to this point, and I looked at it as like, okay, this makes sense. Let's stop here. When turning natural edge, and we're not going to turn natural edge today, sometimes when you're turning it, you'll notice that you may turn the right thickness on the top, and the lower ones will be a little bit thicker. There's a habit to want to go thinner on the top, trying to get that thinner. The bottom is just thickness at that level in the bowl. So you don't make the edge thinner. You just keep going down, cutting a little bit more until this one matches that. It's on the inside. If we ever do one on natural edge, I'll go ahead and explain that a little bit more. I just want to sneak that in because we're not going to look at it today. And just be careful with the bark. I didn't stabilize the bark. I think this one is, I think I used Watco tung oil. No, not tung oil, Danish oil. Yeah. And I think I have 2 coats. I usually don't put too many coats because I get bored and I just move on and just put them on display. That's why I don't even sign my pieces. Let's see. So we're gonna try to do an ash bowl. It's a little bit, like I said, a little bit dry. We'll see how that goes. When putting a chalk on the lathe, usually it's a good idea after you put it on, just secure it. And what that little extra push, what that will usually do is secure it in place. That way, when you turn it on, it doesn't snap on. It will be very hard to take off. So that little push there makes sure like it doesn't over tighten as it turns. Okay. That happened to me while I was hollowing. That was scary.
Yes.
While I secured this one, any question on the first part? Anyone need a little bit more explanation on that? Okay. Perfect. So as time permit, and hopefully this will stay on the list this time, we'll talk also more about sharpening. Yes. On this one, I touched it a couple of areas that I wasn't too sure about it, but most of it, no. The other one, no.
Was it really green when you turned it?
Wasn't dry. It was a little bit wet, but it's. I'm at a stage where I have fun turning, so by the time I'm done turning it, I just put a coat on it just to see what it looks like, and then I'm done with it. Unless my wife keeps it, then I'll pay attention. Because I love her. Let me just touch on bowl gouges again, and I didn't bring the handout again today. I gave it out last week, but I'll go ahead and mail it to the club. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to mail a link on YouTube that I have a playlist of my recommended videos, and these are the videos that I like. I think it's good technique and it's educational. It's not just someone turning a hobby, but if you're not on the mailing list, if you go to YouTube and type in my name, wood turning, it's going to be probably the first or second playlist. It's going to have my name on it, and you'll see the videos. As of now, I have like 49 videos on it, and most of them pretty long demos, and some of them of people who demoed a SWAT, but not known as in, well-known videos. For example, Al Hockenberry. Those who don't know him, he's a great turner. He's retired right now, and he has some excellent videos. You'll see a couple of them on my recommended list, and then you can go follow his channel and see some of his videos. He's very active on AEW forum. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of the tools. Can we switch to the top camera? Let's see. Let me get a little bit bigger gouge to show it. So I mainly turn with Ellsworth grind. And Ellsworth grind is basically, it's a swept back grind. It's parabolic flute, average about 60 degrees bevel, and swept back to about 3/4 of an inch, give or take. It's not exact science. And the main thing about the gouge is that it's either you can get away with flat or slightly concave, but you're not going to make it convex. That's the main thing you want to make sure. And as we turn the inside, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of the heel. Okay. The other gouges that we're going to look at are the it's a traditional grind, or they call them bottom feeders. I have two different sizes and two different manufacturers. So this is 3/4 inch, and the main difference, see if I can get a little closer. I don't measure the angle on the bevel. I just basically regrind it based on where I'm going, and I don't use them much, but sometimes I just need to get around the corner or the bottom, so I may use one. 3/4 just cuts a little bit thinner slice and a little bit nicer, but you cannot hang it over the tool rest too much because it's going to chatter. The bigger size is it's Thompson. The difference is that Thompson tends to grind the top side of the bar, whereas the other one stays round. So you don't have any wings on it, basically, and just makes the tip a little bit shorter. And I grind them a little bit back for them not to grab. And we'll look at how I grind them later on in the demo, if time permits. And the third piece that I'm going to show today is a negative rake scraper. A negative rake is basically, it's a scraper, usual scraper. You grind the bottom. I have a couple of grinds on it, and just because I was playing around with it. But usually I have about 70, 80 degrees or thereabout bottom grind, and about 20, 30 on top, just to mimic. If you have a flat scraper on the lathe, you want to tip it. That mimics that tipping of it, so you just keep it straight. That stabilize it. You can get a better cut, and you can move much better smoothly. Stuart Batty recommends the included angle between the two to be about 70 degrees or less. So I'm not mathematician, but actually I'm not. Let me not go into the math behind it. But basically, just make sure I don't always just make sure it's basically two bevels, and I don't always set it right. Sometimes I just freehand it just to get around it. So I don't grind the top every time. I just grind the bottom if I want to touch it because the top is set. And every once in a while I'll just grind it to give me a little bit more room as it gets shorter. And I don't use it much, but because I don't do many balls, but something we'll look at today. With that, let's get turning. I'm trying to decide if we want to go with 1/2 inch or 5/8. This is a 1/2 inch ball gouge with Ellsworth grind. So let's see. Let me get protection on. So I usually wear glasses, and I did not. I don't like my regular glasses to wear while I'm turning, so I got these set of protective glasses from Amazon. They actually have, they make them like it's 3/4, 1, and extra strength, so you actually act as reading glasses. So I can see them, see better. And since I start using them, now I can see imperfection in my turning, which kind of, I'm better off without them. But can you guys still hear me? Okay. So when turning the inside of a ball, something like that, I usually don't flatten the front, but sometimes if it's a little bit rough and you want to flatten the top, basically you want to put the gouge flat and almost closed. So if it's pointing, it's pointing in the direction of the ball, and you don't want to touch the top. It's okay if you touch the top; it's not going to do anything. But you open it a little bit, and you pull. So you can do that. As if it's not cutting, just open it up a little bit, and you can smooth the top. 1/2 inch is going to shed a little bit, but that's fine. Okay. In any turning, you have David Ellsworth, and kind of the topic of the first session. Basically, he has two cuts for the inside. He have a roughing cut, where he's going to move as much mass as he can, and then he has a finishing cut, inside bowl finishing cut. I've done it a few times. We'll talk about it today. It's a little bit risky, but as we cover it, I'll explain it. So to cut, basically you're gonna go in flat. Okay, you want to take a small bite. It's not cutting, but you want to establish a shoulder for the heel to ride on. Otherwise, it's gonna want to skate back. So just come in, establish a heel, open, and swing. Establish a heel, open, and swing. Okay. Now you can hollow the inside down to the depth you want. If you want to turn a little bit, certain thickness you're not sure on, if you tend to make, for example, thick bottoms, and you're always worried about it, you can always hollow the inside, or you can use a drill to get to the depth you want. That was interesting. Then just hollow around it, or you can take it in steps, which what I'm going to do today, which I'm going to go down from the rim to the base, and we'll step it in as we go down. So for now, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut for about 3/4 of an inch to an inch at a time. And again, the cut is basically establish it. There's a foot. If you see a little bit ring, you open it, starts cutting, and you swing. I'm not trying to ride the bevel in these cuts. On my bigger lathe, I can take much more aggressive and take a lot more wood. On smaller lathe, I'm a little bit more careful with it because I don't know this lathe, plus it doesn't have as much power. So establish, twist, and turn. So let's get to the rim side. And usually for protection, don't wear a watch or a wedding ring, but I'm not going to take them off. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see. I know my hand in the way. So basically open it up. Time. So I'm going to do that up to the thickness that I want to get at. Now the other thing you need to keep an eye on, the angle of your bevel also dictate how far back you're going to come back. Again, you don't have to ride the bevel. If you have 60 degrees, you're not going to be able to swing it too much where you have the bevel leading. You just want to make sure the tip is always leading. But this is usually on this cut is not that big of a deal. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure. I'm just clearing the wood. Go all the way. Now we're going to come towards the edge. And again, it depends on how thick you want it. When I'm going in, I'm trying to align the bevel in the direction of the cut, or a little bit more. If you want to get more aggressive cut, you don't have to ride the bevel. I can just push through it. If you can see that, I can just push through it with no bevel rubbing. But in this cut, as I'm getting towards the rim, I want to a little bit ride the bevel. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, take a smaller cut. And I don't care about, right now, if we stop it right now, I don't care about how rough it is because I'm just removing wood. So if you look at it, it's torn grain and so forth. I'm going to address the rim a little bit right now because it's torn, and then we're going to hollow it to thickness. To address the rim, again, you can just touch it, or you can shear scrape it to get a better finish. I'm going to give it a little bit of down slope. When you shear scrape, you get some kind of like angel hair type things, which gives it a much clearer cut. So I'm not sure how thin you guys want to go. I'm not going to go too thin, but actually still have torn grain. Let's see how we can get that. And this is one of the reasons I don't like dry wood, but a shear scrape, you lower the handle about 20-30 degrees. You're touching the lower bevel, not the upper level, around the wing side. You never want to open it. It's always closed. And you're trying to just get the wood to come at an angle so it slices off the gouge. Okay, anyways, so let's decide, for example, let's say we want to go that thickness, okay? Open it up and remove some wood out of the way. I'm not trying to hollow the whole thing. I just want some wood out of the way. So now I have established thickness on the bowl. From that point on, what I'm going to do, every time I'm cutting, I'm aligning the bevel of the gouge. I want to see it and visualize the outside of the bowl. So I'm just going to try to get them to follow the same cut going in. And that's really how you get a cleaner cut, and it's not going to be perfectly clean, but you're still rubbing the bevel, and you're going with the outside. We're going to cut about an inch, look at it, clean it up, go second inch, and so forth. I do that at thinner than that, works fine. Just go gradually. So let's clear some wood to get a little bit more open. And the reason we're keeping the bulk inside, not hollowing it, because you want to make sure the bowl doesn't start vibrating the thinner you get. This way you enable some, you'll have some mass to keep it in place. I just want to clear them out of the way. And let's say that's enough. So now I'm looking at the outside. I'm aligning the bevel with the outside shape. I want to look at it. I want to see how it looks like. It's closed. I want to open it and just make sure they're aligned. If it's too thick of a cut, take another cut, come back and cut as much as you want. Just make sure they're aligned. Okay, now you can stop and check thickness. Okay. Thickness a little bit thick at the bottom, so I'm going to take a little bit more wood, and then we're going to clean up the surface. Let me take some wood out. And I don't care as much as the middle. I just want to get something out of my way. Smaller cut. Okay, so now I'm coming back. I'm looking at the bowl. I can see it's thicker here because when I look down at it, stop it. I can feel it's a lot thicker right here. So all what I have to do is align the bevel, open it up, and just make sure the bevel follows the curvature of the outside. Now, something we talked about last time when you're turning this. Just remember when it's closed, the bowl is closed, this is a 60-degree angle. So you're at a 60-degree angle from the wood. As I open it, I'm going to swing the ball a little bit to adjust for the fact that even though the bevel is at the tip is 60 degrees, as you move to the side, it's slowly turning into 45 degrees angle, 45 degree angle at the side. So as I open it up, I'm a little bit turning, otherwise the heel is going to come off. So again, I'm thinking about thick right here. Touch, open, and drive it. And I'm just looking at the outside of the bowl, just trying to match the two. I know I got a little bit thicker. Okay, that's about it. So you can stop and feel it. It gets hot. Okay, so now about cleaning that cut. There's more than one way to clean it. I'll explain David Ellsworth's way of doing it. Like I said, it's a little bit advanced cut. And then I'll show you what how Lyle Jameson does it. And we'll go from there. So David Ellsworth's cut is basically, he calls it the finishing cut, inside bowl finishing cut. It's in the handout, kind of the way the handout I gave last week. Usually he sharpens. I'm not going to sharpen right now for the time. He will put the bevel on the wood, fully closed. And he's going to open it up to a point that's going to start cutting on the wrong side of the gouge. It's going to cut on this side. Yeah. And you want to make sure it's only the tip. You never ever want to do it this side. And believe me, I tried that. The whole thing exploded. Okay. You just want to make sure just the tip. And as the tip starts cutting, you swing and you look at the size of the shaving. You want little shavings. You don't want to take a deep cut or let it dive in. If it drives in, stop, take another cut, clean it up, and do something else with it. So, and you never want to start from the rim. You always start with some bevel support. So I'm at the outside. I'm open it up. Let me see if you guys can see. Open it. I usually put my hand on top and I'm pushing down. You don't want to hold the tool rest. So put it in, open it up. I see the shavings. I'm cutting at the tip and I'm going in. Okay, again, tip, open it up, cutting on the wrong side of the gouge, and I'm going in. Okay, that's how David Ellsworth does it. And the way he'll do it, he'll do the entire bowl as a final finishing cut. So David Ellsworth, what he will do, he will rough turn the whole thing. And then it'll be like rough turning the outside. And he'll do a few cuts of this finishing cut until he gets it very smoothly. Now, this is a little bit advanced cut because you're cutting on the wrong side. And you want to make sure you don't get dig-ins or get too much into it. Lyle Jameson have an easier way of doing it. The way he does it, he does kind of shear scraping on the inside. So just make sure the tip does not hit the bottom. Drop the hand a little bit, and you're doing exactly the same thing. Shear scraping the inside. And that's about it. So that's how Lyle does it. You get nice shavings. Hopefully it does on dry wood. It's a good finish. And that's how we start thinning it. Now, interesting thing you can do, Glenn Lucas talks about that in some of his videos or online, I don't remember, is that sometimes when you carry the ball, when it's thin, it's very light. And some people get turned off by that, or they're expecting a little bit more heftier size ball. What he likes to do, he likes to keep the rim a little bit wider, and then he undercuts the rim a little bit, and he goes thin underneath the rim. So someone looking at it, he sees a thick rim, expecting a very heavy ball. He grabs it, and it's very light. He does a lot of balls like that. And again, so Lyle's easier if you find that better for you. The only difference is, as you get towards the corner, you're not going to be able to shear scrape. Now you have to switch to something else. So shear scraping, you drop the handle, you're cutting in the lower wing, not the tip, the wing. Tip does not touch. And just go back and forth until you get, whatever finish you want. We can round it if you want. If you prefer it round, for example. And you do it that way. So now we got the first inch or so. The next thing is now we go into the next inch, and that's how you keep track of it. It's next inch, you just keep track of how thick the ball is, and you take the next cut, and you come around the corner. Let's take some wood. To take this wood in the middle, you have two ways. You can either go from outside in, closed, cut, open, go. And the reason we're going closed is because we want, if you go open, sometimes it's gonna catch or run back and something like that. So you just want to get a V kind of cut inside, just enough for the bevel to ride on, and then you can open it up and take the cut so it doesn't skate back on you. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is to go close it the other way and just take the wood out. Let me raise this one a little bit because I think I'm a little bit low. Yeah. You want to be right at center. It's a little bit high. See? Okay. Yeah, just okay. So another way is you can come the other way. And this is just a pull cut, no bubble rubbing, just taking out some wood. So either way you decide to go, it's fine. Now, again, we want to follow the shape. You don't have to go all the way to the edge. Just clear some room. And I know how deep I am because I'm about right here. So I still have a good a couple of inches from the bottom. So if I know I'm a couple of inches from the bottom and I know where I am right now, even though I may not see it, I'm feeling comfortable taking another half an inch or so of wood. So just knowing where the bottom is. Okay. So now I cleared enough. Let me just get those out of the way. This is just purely push cut, and I'm just not rubbing the bevel, just getting the center out of the way. Okay, so now I know where I am. I can close the gouge, back trace it. Close is not cutting, it's not doing anything. It's facing straight 3 o'clock. I'm going all the way back. I see it dropped. So this is what I left last time. Okay, open it up, and again, bevel follows the outside shape of the ball. Touching, bevel following the outside shape of the ball. Cut is getting a little bit big. I'm going to take a step back, remove some wood. You want to try the other camera, the side camera? Is it better or no? Not sure. Okay, so this is the wood. You see the line. This is higher than that. So I can take a step back, open it up, and I'm looking at the outside shape of the ball. I'm not looking on the inside. And I don't know how thick it is. I know it's thick. I can always stop and check the thickness. I know the first part was good size. I'm a lot thicker just feeling it. It's that thick right here. And it's a little bit that thick on the, move my fingers, like on here. Okay, so I just feel it. So now I want to get a little bit more of that wood out so I can follow that form. Open it, ride the bevel, open it, small cuts, and follow the outside shape until it gets thick, then go across. I don't want to keep following, getting too deep. Just removing the wood. Right there, and I'm following the outside shape. And I left a little bit of tool marker in the middle. Okay. Check the thickness. It's a little bit thick, but it's coming up fine. So it's about probably 1/8 inch or less difference. do one more cut and then we'll blend it in. Open, start cutting, and keep going. And I'm gonna stop, and I'm following the outside shape. Again, we've done another 3/4 of an inch. Now we blend them in, scrape. So far I can still reach inside without the tip hitting the bottom. So I can just come in and blend the two. I can see a little bit thicker, but that's okay for the demo. You can take another cut if you want. Okay, stop and assess. Okay, there's still some marks here. Let's get rid of. Let me just sharpen real quick, and I'll cover sharpening in a minute. I just wanna. This is not set up. Let me switch gouges to bigger gouge. Yeah. And you can see the shavings. Okay. Now, one thing you can do also right now is you can sand if you want to. I see a dip right here. I want to get rid of it real quick, and hopefully that's, yeah, it's right there. That's the chatter. It's thin. It's vibrating. I have a small dip right in there. I don't want to overdo it, so I'm going to leave it alone for now, for the demo. Okay, so now we're coming across the bottom. Let's remove the bottom. I want to make sure my hand not in the way. I tend to put my hand over the gouge and push down. I always got in the habit of pushing down. I don't want to push in, push somewhere else or into it. My force is always down. If I'm cutting on the outside, my thumb is in the groove, in the flute. But it's something you want to get into habit of, not grabbing, not pushing. Just stabilize it and make sure it doesn't vibrate. And again, right now I am just cleaning up the middle wood. The middle, it's protruding about 1/2 inch from the edge of the side. So now I'm just removing wood. If you take a bigger cut, it's going to want to jump on you, catch and stuff like that. Just take a smaller cut. Or if you don't care, you still have a lot of size, just power through it. You're just trying to get wood out. So right now, when I started, I didn't know how deep I am. But one thing, it's kind of a little bit used to worry me. So now what I do, I have confidence like up to certain point. My wall is thin, is fine. So I want to go around the rest. So I know this is not the bottom. So I'm just going to take some wood out. Okay, so now I'm going to get to it, and I'm just going to follow the outside shape. And come inside. I cut less in the middle because I don't know how deep I am. Kind of still not sure. I'm not measuring. So I'm leaving the inside a little bit thicker. I'm going back with the heel, trying to find out where does it drop. It's right there, around there. This is the transition between what I finished before and where I am right now. Open up a little bit and cut it. There it is. And I'm looking at the opposite side to see the marks, to know where I am. Okay, let me stop here. So I'm good to about here. I still have about 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to switch tools just to show them. Because of the open bowl type thing, I'm less worried about the ball not making the turn. So I'm just going to use the bottom feeder just to show it. It's not one of my favorite tools, but it's one of the tools I have. And the thing about a bottom feeder is that this is probably about 60 degrees, but you can make it 70 or 80 degrees depending on where you want it. So with this angle, when I put it on the wood, I can see I can clear the rim. If I have a calabash type bowl or a closed type bowl, if the gouge cannot make the turn without the tip coming off and the bevel getting in the way, you want to switch to a different type of tool. So that's, and with the bottom gouge, it's the same kind of principle. It's a push cut. You want to get the bottom. You want to make sure the tips do not touch. That's where the catch happens, and that's why it doesn't show it well in here. I kind of grind it about 5 degrees or 10 degrees back, just for the wings to be out of the way. So it's a little bit, curved a little bit back. So you can use the bottom feeder. I'm looking at the tips, making sure they don't touch, and I'm going in. Notice the difference in shavings. Okay, it's strings versus the other ones is just mixed. Okay, so let me just make sure thickness wise, because hopefully we're not turning a lampshade. I still have about 1/4 inch or a little bit more at the bottom. Okay, so the bottom feeder leads, if you're rubbing the bevel, a nice finish. So this could be a finishing cut. David Ellsworth also used it to cut from the other side. If you're not comfortable with the other one, you can do it with this one. I'm not going to try that. So rub the bevel, find the cut, and swing it with, see, bevel left in the wood. Okay, this is too big, cut a little bit. So I took a bigger cut, so I have no idea where I am compared to the bottom. I need to measure, but I'm just gonna switch to another tool just to demonstrate it. Okay. And the tip, the small dimple in the middle, just go a little bit slowly and cut it. You don't want to over cut the wood. So now it's coming around, and I have some circles right in the middle. Let's see, we're drawing here. Okay, these are tool marks. It dug in. I still have feeling it. I still have good enough size. So if you don't want to do it with bottom feeder all the way or regular gouge all the way, you can switch to a negative rake scraper. The thing about a negative rake scraper, again, it's 70, 80 degrees bottom, whatever you feel comfortable with, and depending on the wood, and about 20, 30 degrees on the top, whatever angle you want to put on it. You want to do it flat. And you don't want to take too much of a bite, just a little bit of a bite on it. What cuts is the burr. You can use a negative rake scraper for about 20, 30 seconds, and you need to sharpen it again. Otherwise, it's not doing anything. It's tearing out wood or not cutting. And I have no idea what it's going to do on this wood. So flat, go in, and I'm going to touch, and I'm just going to pull it very light. The burr is cutting, and I want to make sure my side doesn't touch. And I'm trying to get rid of that pencil line I created. Okay. I have another perfection. I'm looking at the other side just to blend it in. And you can go across the whole bowl if you want to. I think I have a tool mark still in there. I see a shadow in there. I usually have a light to light the bottom. Yeah, I have some ridges in there. I'm going to leave them for the sake of the demo. But usually what you can do, you can continue that. Let's see if I can get some of it cleaned up. See, and you can feel it. It skips a little bit right there. So there's something there. And I don't want to climb all the way to the top because I already finished the top. If you finish it, you move on. Right here, it's chattering. I can see my finger just bouncing on the surface because it got thin. You never go back and revisit the top. I'm just worrying about the bottom half that I did not turn before. And let's see. And at this stage, again, you sand as you go. I think I have about, it's a little bit thicker at the bottom. I can either hollow it a little bit more, or I can keep it a little bit thicker if I want to make it stable, but the exact same thing. I'm probably about 1/4 inch at the bottom. Okay, and that's a decision you need to make. You want a thicker bottom or not. So that's how you hollow the bottom. Now, sometimes when you're hollowing with the gouge and you're coming around the bottom, you'll see some little bit of circles built into the bottom. Okay, usually that's the heel of the gouge. Let me get a bigger gouge. This is my 3/4 of an inch. This gouge is not going to make all the corners, and that's because as you turn, the heel is going to prevent it from coming around. So the heel is going to scar the wood. It's going to make a ring, or it's going to force it to skip a little bit as you go around it. Okay. When you notice that, and I always do it on my bowl gouges, except when I sharpen them for a while because I do it only outside. You want to create a second. This is not big enough, but you can create a second bevel. Not sure if it's showing well enough. I just have about 1/8 of an inch bevel. That's what I'm cutting with, and the rest of it is just out of the way. And I don't care what angle it is. It could be 40 degrees, it's 20 degrees, I don't care. What I care about is my bevel is 60 and everything else out of the way. What that will allow me to do, and see if I can show it, is as I come around, an 1/8 of an inch can make a circle better than 1/2 an inch or 5/8 of an inch bevel. Okay. Think of it as a bandsaw. The thinner the blade on a bandsaw, the smaller circle you can cut on it because the bandsaw is not coming in the way. Same thing with wood turning. So the next step is taking out the bottom. So let's say we're done with the bowl. It's again, it's a little bit thicker at the bottom. Let me put the tailstock. Now there are lots of ways to take the bottom. You can vacuum chuck it if you have a vacuum chuck. I just bought one, haven't used it yet. The other common, cold jaws, if you have cold jaws. The only thing is if you're doing natural edge stuff like that, you cannot use cold jaws. So I usually have cutoffs. Let me bring them to the lathe. I usually have cutoffs of some things I've turned before. And I keep them. It's basically those some spindle turnings I've done before. And they match my chuck. And hopefully, I remember when I've done these, hopefully these will fit this lathe. And this jaws, okay, yeah. And this is called jam chucking. And let me see if I brought something. I did not. We'll use paper towel. First, let's screw it. Make sure it's It's true. Oh, looks true. Yeah, it's good. I'm just gonna just make it a little bit flatter. I want the edges to hit, not the middle. So let me, this is slow. This is walnut. I don't want the center to hit. I want the sides to hit first. So let me just cleaning up the side. And really depends on the shape of your ball. Now, I use this. I'm sorry. Yeah, but for this, usually I do. They're not flat, right? But if it's much smaller than what this ball is, and I jam chuck even my hollowing. In my hollowing, I just make sure this one fits inside the rim, or like the rim fits like a box on it. If it's a natural edge, I just usually do it probably on the outside, just depends on what I'm turning. For my natural edge, I have a piece spindle that's probably about 8-inch long, so I can jam chuck it in. I hollowed one that was 10 inches deep. That picture I passed earlier, not everyone saw it, but basically, I want to say it's a natural edge ball that's about 8 to 9 inches deep. So basically did the same thing, just had a longer jam chuck. Take this out of the way. You put something just not to mar the wood. I have usually those things you put the shelving papers, I'm not sure what they call them at home. Paper towel works. And you want to put that on the lathe, bring the tail stock. If you have the center still there, that helps a lot to align it in this case. Now, if you don't, what you can do is, can you switch to the top camera? If you don't, you can align the tool rest right by the edge and just turn it around and see if there are any gaps. So if this was not aligned, and I don't want to, let's put another hole. Okay. If this is not aligned, what's going to happen is going to touch in one point. There's an overlap of about 1/8 of an inch, and it's a gap that falls in on the other side. You just need to find the right balance. But because we're using a tailstock, I still have the marker at the bottom. So I'm just trying to rechuck it in reverse. And it'll still have some play. Get it close enough. Okay. I like that sound. Okay. If it's very thin, you don't want to over push it. That will break it. I've seen and sometimes that's how I find out I'm too thin. Because as I started the whole thing starts flexing. I was like, okay, I'm really thin at the bottom. So I just start being careful with that. Now the other thing about turning thin balls, don't be afraid to go through the bottom. I go through them all the time. I have hollow forms that have holes in the bottom. I have balls that I just throw away. It's just practice. You start doing it, and eventually you may screw up one first you may screw up 3 out of 4, then 2 out of 4, then 1 out of 3. Just be comfortable with it. It's an experience, and you go through it. Now, and I had a catch. With this type of turning, you don't want to go side. If you don't have to, you can, but you want to go into it. So You go in, this is a little bit too high. So when I'm passing this around, you're going to see a tool mark. Okay, open it up a little bit and push in slowly, small cuts. Okay, if you want to keep a small foot, you can make that your foot, for example, just make it smaller, but you can just take the foot out. Okay. When you go in, you're kind of going into the jam chuck, so you're not trying to knock it out. You're just going in, making it thinner, and you want to finish the bottom. Make sure it's convex, not concave, so it doesn't rock. So I'm just taking some wood out. And I can feel it, but if you want to, you can stop and put the bowl gouge straight bar. I can see some light in the middle, so I know it's convex. Okay, you close at the bottom. Okay. Now that's usually how deep I would go. I'm not going to take off the little nip in the bottom. I do that sometimes with my spindle gouge. I can go in, thin it out. For now, I'm not going to do that. You can definitely continue to thin it out and close the bottom. Just make sure it's convex. Again, I'm not going to fix the catch right there. And once I'm done, I can, and again, personally, I would probably turn the whole thing down. But one thing you can do, you can get a knife or something and just chip that out of the way. Small pieces at a time, make sure the other hand doesn't in the way. Yeah. So you just take it out or just hammer it with a mallet and chip it out, and then you sand it. Okay. And that's how we turn the inside of the ball. Any questions on that? Okay, let me pass that around. So let me take this out and let's switch to now sharpening. What time do we have? We have some time. I'll take this later. So I can get rid of my face shield. Okay. So how often do you sharpen? What I've turned today, I would have sharpened about 3-4 times when I'm turning a ball. Sometimes more if it's a burl or if it has a natural edge, like those natural edges, especially the big one. I'll probably every few cuts I may go back and sharpen because bark will dull the tool super quick. So you want to sharpen frequently when you feel it's dull. When you see some dust coming out, not shavings, dust, that means it's dull. It's basically, it's just, yeah, pretty much grinding on the wood. You always, when you do the outside, you always sharpen before the last cut. Same thing on the inside. You can hollow and do all you want. You always sharpen before the last few cuts. If you're shear scraping, what I was doing, you sharpen before you shear scrape. Just that gives it a lot smoother finish. Right now you'll feel ridges because I'm using a dull tool from all the turning. It's 1/2 inch. It would have been much easier and a better surface. So you always sharpen as much as you need to. If you're in doubt, is it sharp or not, sharpen it. It doesn't hurt. Okay. Some people like to hone their gouges. Personally, I don't. I just sharpen them. It's quick, it's easy, so why bother? So let's switch to the, let's see, gosh, let's do 5/8 to the grinder. So what I have here is a Rikon 1 horsepower. And I have the Wolverine jig, and I have RoboRest tool rest. I like the RoboRest because it has angles on it predefined. So all I have to do, there's a small handle on the side, and there are numbers for the degree. Okay, I can find a degree that I want, stick it in, and it's set to that. This one a little bit off, I just found out with James Carter, we were looking at it, but that just depends on the height of how it's set up, but you can adjust to that, just knowing where it is. Now, on Rikon 1 inch, if you're doing the base for Rikon, the way I've done mine is that I remove the feet off the Rikon, and I put it on 3/4 piece of wood. And then I put another spacer, 3/4 piece of wood under the Wolverine jig. That gave me the distance between the Wolverine, the jig basically, and the center based on the recommendations by Wolverine. Okay. The other approach, if you're going with, I'm not sure the other one, half horsepower or 3/4, I don't remember the Rikon, you'll do it the other way. You'll actually raise the, I believe you raise the grinder, not the Wolverine jig. No, but the other one is 8 inches too. It's the other one, you can have 8 inches on it. But it's a much smaller engine. But I could be wrong. I have the 1 inch. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to go with what I know. Just make sure you have the right height between, yes, spindle of the grinder and the base. Okay, so let's see. Let's switch to the side camera. Okay, so the Wolverine jig, basically you can change the distance of how you're going to grind it, and then you can lock it from the side. Okay, it has a lock. I have a collar in here. I did not set it up for this demo, but I usually can set up the distance, lock it, so I can always go back to that distance. You can get those anywhere. I think Robert Chucky has them very cheap. I get them, I put them on my tool rest, I think like $2 each. And I got a few of them, I put them on my tool rest, set up the height so that I can drop in the tool rest. It's set to the right height for my ball gouge, and I just turn. I don't have to reset it. So you can do the same thing here with the collar. It's just a round with the nut in it. Now, there are more than one tool. With Wolverine jig, you will get basically the Wolverine Very Grind. There are two types of Very Grind. This is the Very Grind 1, and the Very Grind 2 comes with 2 handles. And basically, they made it to make it easier for some people who are having problems going from side to side. So they kind of stabilized it. A lot of turners do not like that because kind of limit their flexibility. But that's basically, I have the Very Grind, not Very Grind 2. Highly recommended over the Very Grind 2. Now, there are 2 settings when you're dealing with the Very Grind. First, you want to put the gouge in, and it's up to you. Ellsworth grind, it's about 2 inches protrusion from the Very Grind. I have a 2-inch setting over here. You can get something like that, or you can just drill 2 inches hole, or set up a piece of wood that's 2 inches from the edge. You just want to get 2 inches protrusion. So I can put that down, put the gouge, push it in about 2 inches and lock it. Okay, that gives you the 2 inches protrusion. Second is how far do you want the tip from the grinding wheel to get the degree you want. Ellsworth grind is 60 degrees. It's up to you. Now, nothing magical about 60. Just kind of middle ground. He picked 60. That's where he found more versatile, and that's what he's going with. And the way you set it up, you can look from the side, and see if there is any gap. So if you have a little bit more of light, I'm not sure if this is going to show. Let's say over exaggerated. If it's too much, you're hitting the tip is going to be probably 80 degrees or 90 degrees. Just bring it in until you get the degree you want. Okay, and this looks like 60 degrees. Lock it. Okay, it matched my existing 60 degrees. Now, what happens if you don't know what your degree is? You're going to change the angle, and you don't know what angle you have. Maybe you had 50, you might have had 70, you want to get 60. One way you can do that is just grind it, whatever setting is, measure, and if it's it's 70, push it in a little bit, grind again, measure the flow to the side. Oh, it's 60, great. You just want to get the distance of the arm from the wheel based on a 2-inch protrusion. Okay. Another way is that you can try it on a piece of steel. Put that into your and actually bought this one from Don Geiger, but you can any piece of steel, round piece of steel, 5/8 will do, or any type of steel. Protrusion 2 inches, same thing as if it's a gouge. This is set to 60 degrees. If you have few rods, you can set different angles on them, and what you do is the exact same thing. Look at the distance. Actually, it's not 60 degrees, so let's get it to 60 degrees. Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted. And now you know this is 60 degrees if you measure the angle. And now I know if I grind a bowl gouge with 2-inch protrusion, I'm going to get 60 degrees. Sorry. I know about the Sharpie trick. The thing about Sharpie trick is to make sure it's actually touching correct. But this will allow you to actually, if you don't have 60 degrees, you can now set it to 60 degrees. So the Sharpie trick Chris talking about, and I don't do it because it's time consuming. It's great if you're starting out and you want to make sure it works. So basically what you do, you take a Sharpie and you just highlight the tip, basically color the tip. I'm trying to color and looking at the video at the same time. Okay, I probably colored my fingers. Okay, you color the heel, you put it on, and you move the grinder and see what did it grind. So it ground the tip and the heel. Okay, which is fine because it's going to be a convex shape because of the wheel shape, and it's not science. If you're trying to grind 60 degrees and end up with 57 or any other kind of degree, 62, it's fine. Actually, if you buy a gouge from Lyle Jameson, it's set to exactly 62 degrees. And that's his specification. And his 62 specification, I think, personally, I'm not sure why I took it off. I think his 62 is because of the curvature of this wheel. 62 is the tip between the top point and the low point. So in the middle makes it 60. If you remove the heel, it becomes 60. It does that kind of a 2 degree because of the curvature. It doesn't matter. I can sometimes when I'm grinding, I find out that it's off by a few degrees. I don't care because it's not going to affect your turning. Just if you go to 70 or 80, you'll feel it. If you go to 40, you'll feel it. 55 to 65 is all the same. So set it 2 inches, and we got the tip. The next thing is the wings. Vari-grind is flexible. I'm going to remove my existing setting and change it. Now, the distance to the wheel sets the front bevel. Okay. The next, we want the wings. If you have a bowl gouge that already shaped the way you want it, and you're going to match it, what you're going to do, you're going to look at the front. We know we already set it up. Now we put the side on and figure out, keep moving it. Basically, you're changing the arm, okay, to match till the side hits the wheel. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna look. Okay, it's right about there. The side is touching. Okay, I can do it right there. Okay, I'll lock it, and then I'll come across and see. Okay, the heel left the bottom, so I can readjust it, readjust the bottom, and you're gonna go back and forth until you see all of them are touching. Now, looks like all of them are touching. I need my glasses, but okay, and I'm locked that, and now I have the arm position and the protrusion and everything. So now if I want to grind it, I'm going to turn it on. Okay. I usually touch the sides first. So I'm just going to touch the side and see what happens. I have a good contact basically on the edge. If it touches the bottom, if you ground the bottom but not the tip, that means it's a little bit off, and it's up to you. You can just grind the whole thing till you get to the tip or readjust it. I usually just grind till the tip gets, till I get the tip. Go to the other side. And I look at the tip. I look at to see if anything changed at the top. So this is touching the top. If I turn the other way, yeah, see, it's grinding the top of the gouge of the wing. Personally, I don't care much. As long as the top is ground, okay, I'm gonna stop. I don't want to reach all the way to the heel. I don't care, because that's what's cutting. I just want the tip. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just make sure it's done right, and then I'm gonna do a full swing, getting the tip. Okay. And this gets some getting used to. The things you're looking at in a grind is basically, let's see if I can get it right. Okay. You want is continuous curve going down from the wing to the tip. You don't want it to become like going down and a dip at the end, because that's going to catch. Okay, so you want it to continuous curve from the side all the way to the tip. The main thing you're looking for, you don't want the dip over here as it makes transition, where it becomes more of coming down, take a dip and going, because that's gonna mar the wood, create some catches, and you don't want it to look like a J where it's coming down, turning at the end. Okay, Niall Jamieson have a straight edge, and it works fine for him. Ellsworth likes a little bit of a curvature, and it's very fine, small curvature, just to keep the tip out of the way when he's shear scraping, and when you're driving it, it gives it a little bit, few degrees to get a nice slicing cut, on the gouge. Now, what about the heel? We talked about you may want to cut the heel and get it out of the way. Two ways. I can remove it from the jig and freehand, cut the heel, or you can loosen this one, bring it in a little bit, lock it, and probably a little bit more, okay, and just grind again. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but basically you grind up until you find the right, so let me see. I took some of the heel off. All what I care about is this angle is less than that angle, the top one, the bottom one. And that's gonna get it out of the way. Okay, so you just move the arm and you ground the heel. And you can do the same thing all the way to the sides. You can cut fine with an 1/8 of an inch bevel. You don't need a lot. So you can take it all the way to 1/8 of an inch and it's gonna ride the bevel. You're gonna feel it like nothing else. It's still gonna work, cut fine. So sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'll just take the Wolverine jig out and just basically I use it to a platform, put my hand, and I'm just removing it. I don't care what the shape is. I just want it out of the way. That's all what it is. I just don't want to touch the tip and it'll be fine. That's the Wolverine jig. Any questions on that? The distance? The arm length will dictate the wing. Okay, just the wing is dictated by where the arm is set, which one of the handles, the notches. The distance will dictate the bevel, the front bevel. Now, as you change the arm, you still need to adjust for the front, the wheels. So just you play around with them until you get right match on both sides, and you lock it, and you're good to go. You can put tape or something on your arm. That's where you remember exactly where the distance is all the time, or you can do the same thing every time. I do Ellsworth grind jig, so I have the Ellsworth jig. Okay, it's preset. It can do 1/2 inch and 5/8, and sometimes just we want 5/8, might be 5/8 and a little bit more. It doesn't go in. If that happens, just grind the flute a little bit. It goes in. And with the Ellsworth jig, the arm is preset for you. It's based on what he likes it. Okay. The arm length is designed for him because he likes certain angle on his wings, and that's the difference between the inside flute and the outside of his bull gouge. His older jig, the square one, had a different angle on the handle. He found it a little bit grabby, so he adjusted a little bit. Oh, it is bend the leg, you're okay. I found out on my lathe, my setup, when I get 2-inch protrusion, it works exactly the same. As long as I get the tip right, I move the arm, let me readjust it. With the Wolverine, with Ellsworth jig, again, I need my glasses, but I don't have my glasses. Actually, I do, but I don't want to pick them up. By setting up the front, it automatically set for the sides. I don't have to adjust anything, so I can just set it once and I'm done. But I still have I like the Wolverine jig because I have 3/4 inch. I just use it, and sometimes I'll just grab one or the other, doesn't matter. And same thing, the front, and I go to the sides. And I think this is heading the bottom more than the other one. It's about 132 off, so it just doesn't matter. It's still good enough. Come around, grind the other side. And you don't need to grind a lot, and you don't need to push in it. Just touch it. I'm just letting it hang on the wheel. I'm not pushing in. Now you also make sure you don't have a pointy tip. If the tip becomes pointy, just spend a little bit more time on the front, basically, and you're done. That gives you the tip on the front. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. So that's Ellsworth jig and the very grind. It's you'll see sometimes online, like Doc Thompson. He has a flyer. You can download it from his website. He tells you just put your jig against it and adjust it. He says 1 3/4 protrusion, and you can grind it. It's fine. It's his grind. Works fine. Lyle Jameson has his grind. They're all basically swept back grind. Any of them will work. I can grab any of them and turn fine. 55 degrees, 65 degrees, wing, 3/4 of an inch or more, it doesn't matter. You'll be comfortable with it. I actually, when I was taking a class with David Ellsworth, he had a bowl gouge that had 1.5 inch side wing. I was like, wait a minute, I know that you do 3/4 of an inch. He said, nah. One of the students, went crazy with it. I was like, that's fine, just continue. So it didn't matter much. It's not like it's science, it has to be exact. Before, I used to actually measure it, because David Ellsworth has how it needs to be. So it's just a matter of, feel, comfort. The main thing is just no catches, clean cut, take the heel out if you're gonna go inside curves, and you'll be good. The other tools, I'm gonna use a little bit bigger one. So to do the bottom feeder, I'm gonna take the rest. Oh, by the way, I have a magnet on my CBN wheels to catch all the, aluminum filings and just catch them. I should have put it in a plastic bag or Ziploc bag just to make it easier to clean, but that's fine. To do, and by the way, I cut my the length of my very grind arm because I don't choose the long thing, and that makes it easier to put against the wall. For these, I usually use a platform, and what I do, I will try to get the angle right. Let me turn it. Can we do the side camera? Oh, she's doing. Okay. So I will get the front, make sure it touches. It's not exact science, it doesn't matter, a little bit, a few degrees here and there. I just need to go through the bottom, around the bottom. And as I turn it, can you zoom back out a little bit because I want to show my arm all the way, my back hand. Okay. I'm gonna touch it, and as I turn, I'm gonna move a few degrees as I turn. Okay. So instead of just, if I stay and turn it, I'm gonna get certain thing, but I'm touching it, and I'm just using my fingers, rolling my fingers to change the degree. What I want is at the end to be a little bit off on this side, at the end to be a little bit off on this side, and same distance. And again, not science, you're not going to touch with both degrees. And all what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring the wings back a little bit so they don't catch. So by moving it a little bit to the side, I'm getting the wings out of the way, a little bit to the other side, I'm getting the other wing out of the way while sharpening the bottom. Okay, that's all I'm doing. Because Thompson's flute is kind of cut, you don't see the whole wing. But if it has the full circle, then you'll see in a little bit, ground back. And that's all you have to do. Just touch it a little bit. It's sharp. Now I can cut with it. If I want to change the angle, just lift it up a little bit or lower it depending on what angle you want. And you got it. Just a few degrees, 5 degrees here, 5 degrees there. Just bring the wings a little bit back just so they don't catch on you depending on the curvature of your ball, and you're good. Bottom of a gold gouge, you're not going to use a lot. The steel is going to last you for a long time. So the other ones is we're going to do the negative rake scraper. It's a scraper. Now I was playing around the first time I got it, and I wanted to see a much steeper angle. That probably took me an hour grinding till I got to the tip. I do not recommend it. I honestly just grind it by hand. I don't measure. But if you want, set it to a degree. For example, let's go with I don't know. I have this one misaligned. I don't want to push it all the way. I need to fix it. It will start cutting the side. But basically, any platform, set it to the degree you want, 70, 80 degrees angle, whatever you do your scrapers. Because this is round, I want to put it on the tool rest, anchor the middle with my finger, touch the side, and swing. Okay. And you're done. Okay. If you have already had the bevel, if you didn't have the bevel, just grind it till you get the right bevel. If you're changing the bevel angle, just keep grinding till you have enough size at the bottom. Okay. Now that gives you the bottom. For the top, same thing. I usually do, again, I do it by hand, but if you want your platform, you just drop it to wherever you want it. You want a small edge. The whole thing behind this grind is that if you're doing a regular scraper, forget the negative rake. If you put it straight on the tool rest and you're cutting, it may catch. So usually what you do, if you're using a regular scraper inside a bowl, you lift your hand a little bit so it does not catch. Now, the thing about lifting your hand is that it may get pulled in. So you're mimicking that by cutting the tip, that if you're straight, it's mimicking the down angle. That's all what it is. So it could be 20, 30 degrees. It's not a big deal. If you go 40 degrees, not a big deal. It just depends on the wood, how it cuts. Some of it may cut better than other, and you play around with it. So in this one, I'm going to have to go in, even though it's going to catch. And same thing. It's flat. Touch it. Sorry. Touch it and swing. And you're using your fingers as a fulcrum. The main thing about it is after you do the top, you always grind the bottom, because that will raise the burr on the top. And that's what you're going to cut with. Right now, I put the burr to the bottom. And I would regrind basically the bottom, and you're done. So with negative rake scrapers, you want to resharpen it every 30 seconds or so if you're doing a lot of turning. Like my big ball, probably if I'm going to do that, I'll probably sharpen it twice or 3 times, depending on how bad the bottom is. Okay. Any questions on sharpening? I'm trying to see if anything, other tools I need to sharpen. I think that's about it. Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming.